First one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. All right. I'm gonna be nameless to either of these teams. We're gonna take away the face, take away the brand, take away whatever. Let's say your team number one. Team number one has matched the win total from last year. Currently 10th in the conference. Has a brand new coach. And their high draft pick of a couple of years ago is leading them in scoring and is potentially having an all-star year. Okay? That's team number one. All right? Team number two is not where they were last year. In fact, they are worse than where they were last year. Currently, they are 7th in their division. I believe they're second to last in the conference. They have fired their head coach and since brought in a new head coach. And their leading scorer is also a draft pick from a few years ago. So also having a all-star caliber year. And here's my question. Which team would you say is doing better overall? Like, which team would you say you have more confidence going forward? If you said Team A, you would be talking about one Detroit Pistons. If you said Team B, you would be talking about the Detroit Red Wings. Now, let me further add some context. The Pistons, going into this year, had the worst season of their franchise the prior year. They had basically no real defined talent to that point. They had, Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, but outside of those guys, you weren't really sure what you had really to take advantage of. They had just fired their head coach. They had just brought in a new general manager. And again, it was the Pistons. Like there was just very little sense that there was anything good going on. They bring in free agents that really most people, if you just name them, really had no interest in. Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Really not a whole lot of excitement there. However, the Pistons this year obviously they're not the best team in the conference, but they're currently in the play-in, and they're playing pretty competent basketball. Like, dare I even say, the Pistons are a fun team to watch because it's thrilling basketball for one. They'll play close games, they'll play comeback games, they'll play overtime games, they'll play all kinds of games. It's a lot of fun basketball in Detroit. Cade Cunningham is playing at an all-star level. Cade Cunningham is really good. 24 points a game, 6 boards a game, 9 assists a game, almost a double-double average on the year for Cade Cunningham. Tobias Harris, take him or leave him. He's been an okay vet. He's had games where he's really good. He's had games where he's really not that good. Jaden Ivey, he's another one kind of coming into his own there. He's got 17 points a game, shooting 73 from the field. Let's see, 3-point percentage is a little higher than Cade's actually. It's 39%, so almost 40% from the field goal or from the 3-point. So the shots have improved for both Cade and for Jaden Ivey. And you also have additions, the other additions in the offseason. Malik Beasley, he's your leading 3-point shooter, 18% from 3. He's been really fun to watch. Tim Hardaway Jr., former Michigan Wolverine basketball player. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's been a solid addition as well. He's got 10 points a game, a couple of rebounds a game, an assist a game, but shoots about 36% from 3. So you got a lot of fun players. And then even, some of the younger guys in Jalen Duren, he's also not, blowing you out of the water, but he shows those flashes, right? You have upside with a guy like Jalen Duren. You have upside with a guy like Ivy and Cunningham, of course. Even, you know what? Shout out my man Isaiah Stewart. He's been a pretty solid bench presence for Detroit. The counting stats leave you a bit to be desired, but he's 23 years old, and he's been a solid bench player for Detroit. Like, being able to come in and, sort of, like, hold the line a little bit. Even Simone Fontecchio, he's another one. guy that we acquired in the trade deadline last year, and he's been pretty solid. Ron Holland has been a fun player to watch. Asar Thompson, still not good shooter. Neither is Ron Holland. But at the very least, they can at least be kind of fun to watch at times. And you're even seeing some production from some of the other guys that are deeper in this team, like Paul Reed, who, frankly, he might take more minutes just because he's been pretty solid overall. Now, are any of these guys superstars other than Cade and maybe Ivy? No, but they're fun. They're enjoyable. All right. Now let me flip to the Red Wings, who just fired their head coach and who have basically 4 good players. Now, here's the thing. If I just go through the offseason additions of Trajan Langdon versus any addition that Steve Yzerman has made to the Red Wings, despite their not counting draft picks, boy, oh boy, it is a world of difference. Okay? Like, let me run this down, okay? Here were the main offseason additions for Trajan Langdon this offseason, okay? Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Those are your big 3 additions. And, of course, the hiring of J.B. Bickerstaff, okay? So those are your 3 additions to the Pistons. And that is immediately little bit of a fire under the Pistons to the point where they could very well be in the play-in if they continue to play at the level that they're playing. On the other end of it, and now granted this is over much more offseason, Trajan Langdon just hired. Outside of draft picks, this is what you've gotten from Steve Yzerman. JT Compher, Patrick Kane, Andrew Kopp, Vladimir Tarasenko, Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, Eric Gustafson, Christian Fisher, and Justin Hall, and a few others, whose names I'm not even going to give the decency to call. Tell me which one of those guys is even remotely good. Maybe Patrick Kane? One problem, he's 36 years old. So he's not going to be here, in theory, when the quote-unquote kids get here. Right? So there's that. On top of that, the coach that Steve Yzerman hired, need I remind Red Wings fans who continue to make excuses for him, he hired Derek Lalonde, has since been fired after not 1, not 2, but now 3 collapses in his time as a coach. He collapsed in December his first year. He collapsed in February, or actually 4. He collapsed in December his first year. He collapsed in February his first year as well. Then he collapsed in December again in his second year. Then he collapsed in late March last year. And then this year, he once again collapsed in December. And now we bring in Todd McClellan, who is at least an experienced head coach, but he's 1-1, got blown out in his first game, and then a much better win over the Capitals, I suppose. Yeah, DeBrincat is the lone guy. I didn't count him. Okay, DeBrincat is the lone guy because he was a trade acquisition. That's a good call, Detroit fan, man. DeBrincat is the lone guy that I would say that was a hit for Steve Yzerman in terms of free agency and trades. Every other one has basically been terrible. Patrick Kane last year was fun. Patrick Kane this year, not fun. Not fun. Very not fun. I want to go back to last year's Patrick Kane. Can we get that guy on our team? JT Compher has 17 points in 29 games. And you know what makes it all the more worse? Is a lot of the guys that Steve Yzerman, now whether or not this was a good idea at the time or whether or not I agree with that, let's just leave all that aside. The guys that have left, either Steve Yzerman trading them or whatever, many of them are doing better. Jake Wallman looks pretty good in San Jose. Granted, he's playing in San Jose. He's the top line guy. He wouldn't be a top line guy. Whatever. You have a terrible defense, and he was a defenseman. Part of the reason your defense is terrible is because you don't have guys like Jake Wallman. You also have, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Oh my gosh, Philip Hronek, who is a really solid player out in Vancouver. Now, again, should we have kept Philip Hronek at the time? I don't know. Maybe not. The point is, guys leave, they play very well. Guys we bring in do not play very well. Outside of the draft picks. And outside of a 28-year-old Dylan Larkin, who is the captain of this team. And playing at a point or roughly, you know, a little under a point per game. He's showing signs of slowing down. I'll just say that. And like your only good defenseman is Moritz Seider. Like this to me, like you couldn't script a more like obvious case of, okay, general manager A, immediately I trust him more in the Pistons versus general manager B, who has shown me very little reason to trust. Like, to me, this is so, these two teams are indicative of the chain of how a big name, a guy that you love in Steve Yzerman, does not mean a lick of crap. Okay, it doesn't mean nothing when it comes to actually being able to put together a winning team. Because on the other end of it, we might have a play-in team in year one of Trajan Langdon. Scott Harris has already made the playoffs. Brad Holmes speaks for himself. Steve Yzerman came in roughly around the same time as Brad Holmes, a year before, actually. Brad Holmes was brought in after the 2020 season. The Pistons just fired their general manager before and got a new one who has immediately seemingly done more. Now, is Trajan Langdon going to go on to lead the Pistons to winning an NBA championship? I don't know. Is Steve Yzerman eventually going to redeem himself? Is Tom McClellan going to be the guy who lights a fire under this roster and they go on a run and they end up making the playoffs? I don't know. I hope so. But here's the thing. You've already hired 2 head coaches. You know what you're not going to do, Steve Yzerman? Hire a third. That's going to be done by your replacement. So this guy, Tom McClellan, better be your last head coach. And furthermore, I don't want to hear any more of this, we're not giving out term, or patience, or this is the only way to do it. He gave a press conference where he said the expectation going into this year was that if everything went well, this was a team that could make the wild card. And I just thought to myself, wow, make the wild card. Boy, what a life you get to live, Steve Yzerman. Make the wild card? Buddy, we're 5 years in. Make the wild card should have happened like last year. But the coach that you hired, by the way, blew that largely. On top of the fact that it was the roster that you built. Sucked. And continues to suck. So, we are at a bit of an impasse. Going into the next calendar year, the Pistons look like a very good team. Or not a very good team. A very improved team. A team that is shown to jump up. And you might say, oh, well, the Pistons, they got lottery luck. They got 1 number 1 overall pick. I don't want to hear about lottery luck. And don't give me the lottery with Steve Yzerman. I do not care. You have 4 guys on your team that you have drafted. All of them in the first round. Where are all these late additions that Steve Yzerman is supposed to be really good at? Like, this is exactly right. We keep hearing about a bunch of stuff with these prospects. Where are they? I don't care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let me say this again. I don't care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let me say it one more time for the hockey nerds who don't understand. I do not care about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Nobody with a life cares about the Grand Rapids Griffins. Okay? Nobody outside of the city of Grand Rapids cares about the Griffins. Okay? They could win 1 million games. They could lose every game of the year. I don't care. And guess what? You know what's funny? It's amazing. When the Red Wings were really good, you know, when they were actually developing players that were coming up and making immediate impacts, you know what's interesting? They were winning at the NHL level too. It wasn't just wait until Chris Lindstrom gets here. Just wait until Henrik Zetterberg gets here. Just wait until Pavel Datsyuk. No, you see, because they were winning. They were actually good. Only losers do the wait until the kids get here. That's what losing teams do. That's what the Buffalo Sabres do. That's what the Montreal Canadiens do. That's what the San Jose Sharks do. That's what the Chicago Blackhawks do. And guess what? You're in their camp. One problem. Those teams are just starting some of their rebuilds. In the case of the Blackhawks or the Sharks. You, on the other hand, are 5, gonna be 6 years in. And there is nothing. Yeah, Axel Standing, he's so good, he's not even at Grand Rapids. That's how good he is. He's so good, he can't even play in the AHL, apparently. Maybe he could. I don't know. You know what I want? I want a little bit of boldness. And I was texting my brother this. You know what I would want? How about you do this? How about you take your Pelicas, you take your Trey Augustines or whoever, these top prospects, these allegedly really good players, you package those up, and you go out and you get a real superstar, like a guy who can actually play at the NHL level, and you call up some of the other kids, and you bring in the alleged depth that we have built in our farm system, and you go out and you make a run for a playoff spot. And you know why I know that's not going to happen? Because this team is immune to risk. The only risk we're willing to take is on garbage players like Andrew Kopp. That's the only players that we'll take a risk on. We will never take a risk that actually means meaningful changes because we don't want to speed things up. We don't want to give out term. We don't want to give out term. Not giving out term is going to be the very reason that Steve Yzerman does not keep his job for the next 2 years. If we're even giving it, the fact that I'm giving him 2 years tells me everything I need to know. Apparently, evidently. First round pick. You know what's funny? You know what teams don't have to deal with this? Like the Flyers, who Matvei Michkov is already there and already a very good player. Interesting. Oh, but he was a Russian player. You're asked. Yes, I'm asking for us to actually have real players that we draft on our team. Okay? If these players are so good, they would be on the NHL roster. Because who are they competing with? Vladimir Tarasenko? Ben Sherratt? Jeff Petrie? Christian Fisher? Bum number 3, bum number 2, and bum number 1? Tired of it. I'm tired of the low standards in this city for the hockey team that is probably the most successful team in this city. It's the only team that in my lifetime was perennially, I guess the Pistons were for that for a while, but we're perennially basically winning championships. Yeah. I mean, maybe if they want to take a risk, Detroit fan, man. But unfortunately, again, immune to risk. And also, apparently, evidently immune to winning. But you know what? You get a little bit of a restart. Because Todd McLellan's coming in. Maybe he's going to be good. I don't know. I don't got a whole lot of hope in that. Because I don't think the groceries are good. So you can change the chef, but the tomatoes got mold on it. And the chicken is 12 weeks old. So you can do whatever you want with the coach. This is the last straw for Steve Yzerman. And you compare and contrast it with the Pistons. Night and day. Night and day. Yeah, don't rush him. Don't rush Kosa. Wouldn't want to do that. Wouldn't want to apply a little bit of pressure on our alleged future. Yeah, wouldn't want to do that. Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.